Well, welcome to August. Happy August, August 1st. With a new month, we have a new theme. And as I wrote in the thought for the week, this theme this month is Living in the Kingdom. And I feel it's important that we have that as a theme for the whole month, because so many times we forget. And we want to remember that we are living in this kingdom at all times. How many of us are familiar, I'm sure you are, with the story of the prodigal son? The characters are pretty basic. There's the father, who has in his home everything. Everything there is supplied. Everything that is needed is there. Then there's the brother, who is there as well. And then there's the other son, the prodigal son, who has that wanderlust about him. He wants to go and find something better than the house that he's living in. Each of us has each and every one of those characters within us. At times, we are the father, knowing that we have everything that we have need of right here. At times, we're the brother, who is nitpicky, who is comparative, who is complaining, and many times we are the prodigal, the wanderlust, the one who wants to leave where we are to find something better. And so many of us look at the prodigal son and at first glance say, hey, buddy, get a clue, you know? You've got everything you need. Why would you want to leave it and go elsewhere? But that is the tendency of our nature, that we think there's something better out there versus right where we are at the very moment. This story is not a story of territory. It's not a story about where you are in space and place. It's a story of where you are in consciousness. It's a story of how I can be in truth and in reality. As I think about this topic, this theme, I'm reminded the final paper that I wrote for to receive my Bachelor of Religious Science Studies was named, Wherever I Go, There I Am. So wherever we go, we are taking our self, our true self. And sometimes we identify with our true self, that capital S, and sometimes we identify with the small self, the little s. And wherever we take ourselves, one or the other is going with us. And it's up to us to identify with the right one, day in and day out. I think about the brother, who never left, the good boy, never did anything wrong. And yet when his brother comes home, the prodigal comes home, what does the father do? Throws him a party, does all this. And then the brother just stomps his foot and says, hey, I never got a party. I'm the one that always does everything right here. How come you never throw me a party? And what is the father's reply? I had lost my son, and now he's back. What a celebration. What a teaching for that older brother to think about someone else other than yourself, to recognize the value of having a lost person, a lost soul, return to the kingdom, to recognize where we are. Our topic this morning is entitled, You Are Unlimited Spirit. And I got that topic from one of the chapters in The Way of Mastery, in specifically one of the sections called The Way of Transformation. And I put a star next to this sentence. One thing and one thing only will bring you into the transformation that you have sought: the willingness to abide where you are differently. You don't have to go anywhere different. Just the willingness to abide where you are differently. Begin again with the simple exercise of reminding yourself that in truth, you are an unlimited spirit, abiding in all dimensions. Think about that for a minute. Can you just picture that? Can you fathom that? That I am an infinite, unlimited spirit, not just housed in this body form. And I am living on all dimensions. There is nowhere you can go that you're not at home. All extraordinary abilities are already inherent in your consciousness. All extraordinary abilities are already inherent in your consciousness. It's already here. But we have to remind ourselves of that, don't we? Because we get so caught up in just the day-to-day things of life. Unless we pursue and enlarge and get ourselves off of the treadmill, out of the rut of doing everything that we've done just the same way we've done it, and expanding that consciousness. We've been reading in our Thursday group the autobiography of a yogi. And in one of the chapters, he talks about the saint with two bodies. And I'm going to share this with you because it's just an example of what can happen when you have that elevated consciousness. Now, it's a story of, I'm going to try to summarize it a bit at the beginning. The Paramahansa Yogananda is a boy, and he is sent to another land, another city, because his father wants to connect with an old friend of his. And his father has sent him there with 2 letters of introduction, because the father knows that this one Swami is going to know where the other guy is. So you got to go to the Swami first, and then the Swami's going to get to the other guy who he really wants to talk to. Okay, so he's there. He finds the Swami's home, and before he can even present the letter, the Swami is already expecting him. And I want to read this abruptly, and then there's in a conversation, he's talking, Paramahansa Yogananda is talking to the Swami. Abruptly terminating our conversation, the saint became gravely motionless. A sphinx-like air enveloped him. At first his eyes sparkled as if observing something of interest, then grew dull. I felt abashed at his, oh gosh, these words in this book are just cuckoo. Polosqui? He had not yet told me how I might meet Father's friend. A trifle restless, I looked around me in the bare room, empty except for us two. My idle gaze took in his wooden sandals lying under the platform seat. Little sir, don't be worried. The man you wish to see will be with you in half an hour. The yogi was reading my mind, a feat not too difficult at the moment. Again, he fell into inscrutable silence. When my watch informed me that 30 minutes had elapsed, the Swami aroused himself. I think Kedar Nath Babu is nearing the door, he said. I heard somebody coming up the stairs. An amazed incomprehension arose suddenly. My thoughts raced in confusion. How is it possible that Father's friend has been summoned to this place without the help of a messenger? The Swami has spoken to no one but me since my arrival. I unceremoniously quitted the room and descended the steps. Halfway down, I met a thin, fair-skinned man of medium height. He appeared to be in a hurry. Are you Kedar Nath Babu? Excitement colored my voice. Yes. Are you not Bhagavati's son who has been waiting here to meet me? He smiled in friendly fashion. Sir, how do you happen to come here? I felt baffled resentment over his acceptable presence. Everything is mysterious today. Less than an hour ago, I had just finished my bath in the Ganges when Swami, well, I don't say his name is, approached me. I have no idea how he knew I was there at the time. Bhagavati's son is waiting for you in my apartment, he said. Will you come with me? I gladly agreed. We proceeded hand in hand, and they were walking down the road. I'm going to do a little bit of skipping here. And the Swami excused himself and said, I'll meet you there. I'm going to go ahead. So we met a few times. So before I could resonate, he dashed past me into the crowd. This explanation only increased my bewilderment. I required how long he had known the Swami. We met a few times last year, but not recently. I was very glad to see him today again at the Ganges. I cannot believe my ears. Am I losing my mind? Did you meet him in a vision, or did you actually see him, touch his hand, and hear the sound of his feet? I don't know what you are driving at. He flushed angrily. I am not lying to you. Can't you understand that only through the Swami could I have known you were waiting at this place for me? Why, that man Swami has not left my sight a moment since I first came here an hour ago. I blurted out the whole story and repeated the conversations the Swami and I had. His eyes opened wide. Are we living in this material age, or are we dreaming? I never expected to witness such a miracle in my life. I thought this Swami was just an ordinary man, and now I find he can materialize an extra body and work through it. Together we entered the saint's room. Kedar Nath Babu pointed to the shoes under the platform seat. Look, those are the very sandals he was wearing at the ghat, he whispered. He was clad only in a loincloth, just as I see him now. As the visitor bowed before me, the saint turned to me with a quizzical smile. Why are you stupefied at all this? The subtlety unity of the phenomenal world is not hidden from true yogis. I instantly see and converse with my disciples in distant Calcutta. They can similarly transcend at any obstacle of gross matter. Now, this is something that happened. How did it happen? We don't know. There are abilities in this world and beyond that we can't even fathom, that we are so bemuddled about. And yet they happen. How do they happen? To those individuals who have elevated their consciousness. They have developed that consciousness to allow this infinite spirit to work through them, as them. I've also been reading the 3 Pillars of Zen, and there was a question that was asked, which I think all of us ask this question. It's so universal. If the sutras say, our essential nature is bodhi, perfection, why did all Buddhas have to strive for enlightenment and perfection? If we are perfect, how come we still have to get there? The answer replied, no Buddha is conscious of its existence, that is, of this essential nature, while cats and oxen, that of the grossly deluded, are aware of it. Later in the same paragraph, it is written that Dogen, this is the fellow who's writing this, Dogen received full awakening, that is, the liberation of body and mind, through these words uttered by his master. You must let fall body and mind. You must let fall body and mind. That means we are to let go of what's going on in this physical realm if we are to elevate our consciousness into that spiritual, unlimited realm. Many of us don't want to do it. We're not interested in it, quite frankly. We like having our little dramas. We like to figure out what I'm going to wear tomorrow, what I'm going to have for dinner. But it reminds me of Jesus' words, therefore take no thought, therefore be not anxious of what you will eat or what you will drink or what you will be clothed in. For your heavenly Father knows what you have need of these things, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Right. We're here on this physical plane, I believe, to have experiences, is what I've been reminded, is what we call it. We're having an experience all the time. But how we judge it, how we perceive it, makes all the difference in the world. And one of the mainstays that I will remind you time and time again is that when we go into the silence, when we go into the meditative state and ferret out all of the thoughts, all of the distractions of life, go within so that we have that single point of focus and bring forth that divine energy and essence within us, we are fed, we are nurtured, we are renewed. And therefore, when we go out and we have all of our experiences, we can bring that with us, that peace, that knowing that I am an unlimited infinite spirit. I'm having an interesting experience right now, as a matter of fact. I had a friend call and said they were in a dilemma and they needed somebody to take care of their 2 kittens for them. So I said, of course, I'll do that, thinking it would be like a week or so at the most. Now I'm understanding it might be a month. I don't have any other cat. I mean, I have nothing. There's no reason why I can't take care of these kittens. But it's been a long time since I've had any sort of animal or kitten in my household. And I'm learning. They're teaching me how to live in the moment. And yes, I tell them I have rules here. You can get on the chair, but you can't get on the table. And I've been speaking cat. I know when they're hungry, so I interpret that. But as I look at this whole experiment, I think, this is interesting. I just said, sure, not really looking down the road any further, living in the now, and allowing myself to just say yes. It reminds me of the story, I think it's the Lao Tzu story, where the elder man in the village was accused of fathering a child from this young girl. And he wasn't, he hadn't. But they came to him and they said, here's this baby. You got to take this baby because, she's too young. She can't care for it. And so it's your baby. You have to take it. And he said, if you say so, if that's what you say. And he takes the baby. And he cares for the baby, and he has the baby for a few years. Now the mother is older. She comes back and says, I want my baby, if you say so. And he gives the baby back. Life is giving us gifts. Life is giving us opportunities at every moment to transcend the level of consciousness that we are at now. And if we work with it, if we allow ourselves to glean the information, the lesson from it, we can move on. We can move up. We can allow ourselves to let go of the limitations of where we're at and go forth. Because you know what? It's going to happen ultimately anyway. It also reminds me of Michael Singer's The Surrender Experiment. Just surrendering to what is now in life. He made that proclamation. He made that declaration that I am going to surrender to whatever comes my way. So in a way, he proclaimed that. Because right now, in our New Thought, religious science movement, we talk about visualizing, knowing what you want, stating it in affirmations and proclaiming it, and seeing it come forth. And there's nothing wrong in that, because there are levels that we must climb through in order to achieve that status, if we want to, where we have two bodies. I wanted to share with you Roy Eugene Davis's reading for today. Acknowledging the reality of God. When you know you are a spiritual being living in God's wholeness, the mistaken sense of feeling that you are separate from God dissolves. Until you are God conscious, tell God about your needs and aspirations. Ask for help when you need it. Ask for courage and wisdom and for success in your meditation practice. There's nothing wrong in that. By inviting the presence of God into your awareness, you will rise above ordinary states of consciousness. Your innate spiritual qualities and powers will be unveiled. You will be exceptional. You will have exceptional powers of perception and extraordinary abilities that can be used to improve your personal circumstances and enable you to more easily awaken to self and God realization. Those are both capitalized, self and God. The deeper you go into God, the more peaceful and fulfilled you will be. Acquire an intellectual understanding of God. Use your intuition to discern the truth about God. Realize, experience, and know God as God is. You can do it. Recognize that there is no separation between us and God. We are that living, breathing energy in this body form at this time. Let yourself enjoy it. Let yourself step out of the bounds that you have put yourself in and accept that there is something better, broader, greater for me to experience in this life. And it very well likely will be some form of service that you can do and give, because that's what love does, is it gives, and it gives, and it gives. So give of this unlimited self that you are, and see how wonderful life is. Kittens and all. Namaste. Love you.